This is probably the most controversial video I've ever made, and it's probably the most controversial video you'll probably ever watch. It's probably going to get me in trouble, but at the same time, it is a topic that I think should be out there, should be spoken about. I'm not, firstly, I would never encourage this. I would never do this. If I knew somebody who did it illegally, I would report them to the police. If I knew someone who did it legally, I would want nothing to do with them ever again. And that's human sacrifice. All through the history of sorcery, especially in Indo-European cultures and indigenous cultures, human sacrifice has been a fact of life in many tribes, in all tribes. You see the bog bodies in Scandinavia, in Ireland, that have been found. They were all over Europe in one form or another, but they were preserved in Scandinavia and Ireland because of the acidic nature of the bog, allowed the bodies to be preserved, and they were all strangled. Now there would have been two sides to this. One would have been they would have been the the rapists, the psychopaths in the tribe who are pedophiles, who were strangled. The other side would be ones who would have willingly giving themselves up as an offering to the bog, or to a lake, or to the sea, or to a fire, or to the woods, to a forest, as an offering for to appease some god. Believe it or not, human sacrifice is practiced today by many occultists, very commonly, I might add, and it's obscene. It's it's a difficult thing to think about, but it's nothing like you think it is. Reading about Crowley and all that kind of stuff, Crowley makes it quite clear that the most powerful occult sacrifice is a human life. How is it done legally? I know this sounds very strange, but the reason why I'm making this video is you may know somebody who did this, and you should avoid them, because I am totally against the idea of this in magical practice, for the simple reason that even if you killed a pedophile to do it, it would create a situation like you have with the Aztecs, where you would have endless killing, because human sacrifice ultimately doesn't work, although it does produce a ferocious magical charge. And this magical charge is useful for other things, but if it's done, if it's done once, it will happen. It doesn't work a second time. It's a weird kind of thing. It's almost like it's like a one-shot deal with the one who does it. But this doesn't stop dark magicians from doing it. Okay, what's the first legal method you can perform human sacrifice? Now, if you're watching this video, I'm not promoting it, so don't ban my channel, okay? The first one is to join the military and go into battle and kill people. That's been known for a long time, and in World War One, especially, there was a very large occultic nature to those. To that time, you had the rise of the spiritualist movement and so on, and magic was and occult and sorcery was very, very popular in Europe. There was two kinds of sorcery performed in these cases. The man on the battlefield dying would be sodomized by an enemy soldier, or even by one of his own soldiers, to try and capture his magical life force as it was going out of his body, in the belief that it would make him live. This was a major. This actually came about by osmosis in the trenches in World War One. So legally, some occultists, some of the dark occultists, the left hand path extreme occultists, joined the military in order, and also some Odinists. Now I know all Odinists are not like this, so please don't lose your fucking mind. But there's pathological elements within there who will join, in particular the U.S. military, and they kill people in battle as human sacrifice. The second way of doing it is a police officer. You can join. Not it's in a country where the United States where they'll shoot anybody. For you had that horrible situation of a woman in Minnesota or Minneapolis, I think it was, who was shot dead by this Somalian half-wit immigrant. She was a popular new age spiritual healer type woman, and he gunned her down through the window of the squad car and of course he got away with it because the world is insane. But that's one of the ways it can be done. There was a film made back in the late 70s, early 80s called Fort Apache, the Bronx, with Paul Newman, and there was a scene where a young Puerto Rican kid is thrown off the building by this Irish cop, and that was kind of like a kind of a sacrifice that we could just see the way it was done. Very good scene in a very good movie, I might add. Very disturbing scene in a very good movie. And the third and a very common method of human sacrifice, which nobody talks about because it's so taboo, is abortion. Now that doesn't mean every woman that has it. I'm actually pro-abortion. I don't have a problem with abortion. I'm not anti. I think that I don't have a problem with it once it's not used as a form of birth control, or in this case, human sacrifice. Wiccans, some Wiccans, of course, the majority don't behave. The majority behave themselves, but a hardcore element of feminist Wiccans. They're very common in America, who are polluted by a kind of a pathological psychotic feminism, and are also Wiccans. When they're pregnant, they get deliberately pregnant, and if they're having a baby boy, they through the sonogram they will abort the baby boy as a human sacrifice to Hecate, which is not what Hecate would want, the archetype would want. But they do it. It happens. I've known personally someone who did it in the US. I don't have anything to do with them anymore, but they admitted it to me. And so that's a very common way of human sacrifice is performed. So there you have it. As amazing, shocking, and upsetting as it is, human sacrifice in occultism, and this is before we even get to mass human sacrifice that you would have done through wars and stuff like that. Just mass, which is what World War One basically was, but mass sacrifice is done today through the people join the dark occultists, left hand occultists join the military. Uh, Joining the police force and going into poor neighborhoods and executing people. We've got to be very wary of police officers who may express hardcore Odinist. And again, I'm not putting down Odinist or hardcore occultic mindset, particularly if they seem unstable. They're probably involved. They're probably killing people off, in poor neighborhoods in order to perform human sacrifice for favors granted in terms of money and things like this, and also an element, a small tiny element of hardcore feminist Wiccans who get pregnant deliberately, check their sonograms. If it's a baby boy, they abort it, a part of a human sacrifice ritual. And so there you have it. Human sacrifice is not as macro as the conspiracy theories think it is. It's also far more common than anyone knows it is, and it takes place all around you in every city, in many towns in the world, and it's legal, and that's why they do it the way I've just described. Like I said, if I knew someone that did any of these things, I wouldn't want anything to do with them, for the simple reason that sacrifice only seems to work once, and then after that it becomes an addiction. So I hope it didn't upset you too much at this, but that's my job in many ways. I bring you the truth, and that's the truth, and this is not a pleasant world, and in some ways, but it's a beautiful world in many ways. So be wary of people that you think may be doing things like that, and stay away from them. And if you're involved in law enforcement or the military and you think someone around you is doing this kind of thing, report them to the senior officers and the relevant administrative, you know, departments that you would report them to. Okay, thank you.